Hello all and welcome to week 5. All right, just a quick review of where we've been. We've covered the founding documents, we've covered federalism and the two types of federalism are. You get to answer that. We talked about the Pendleton Act and the beginning of us as public administration. We talked about Wilson's dichotomy, that split between, or that dichotomy between the politics and the administration. Politicians on one side, public administrators on the other. I want you to pay some kind of careful attention to Wilson's dichotomy this week because I think that's going to help in one of your assignments. We talked about Frederick Winslow Taylor, and we talked about scientific management and Max Weber. We talked about Goodnow and how that related to Wilson's dichotomy. And we talked about Mary Parker Follett. That was in weeks 1 and 2. We moved from there to Gulick, and the big thing we need to know about Gulick is POSCORB. And if you remember what POSCORB stands for, that's a good thing to remember. We talked about Chester Barnard and his informal communication chains. We talked about Merton Simon Lindblom. Lindblom was the science of muddling through how we make decisions. We talked about Maslow and McGregor last week. Maslow was the hierarchy of needs, the motivational theory. McGregor was how we view theory X and theory Y, how we as a manager perceive our employees. There were some problems with some of the textbooks, whether it had Appleby and Selznick in it. If it did, great. If it didn't, that's okay. Focus on the others. And then we're still moving along on Dwight Waldo. And there was a summary article on him as well. This week we're moving into a whole new era. So we've been through the founding of our country, kind of the development of us as public administrators, into the 1930s with this rapid growth of especially the federal government, moving us into this period of cooperative federalism versus dual federalism, if you were still thinking about the answer on the previous slide. And now we're up into the 1960s, and this section is called From JFK to Civil Service Reform. What I would suggest as we're moving into this new era, in the beginning of this chapter, before you get to the Katz-Kahn article, pages 175 to 186, it's actually less than 10 pages, some real good kind of prep information that will really help in the next few weeks. So I'd take the time. It's an easy read. I'd go through pages 175, 186 to get the context of where we're going. This week we're going to work on the Katz-Kahn article from 1966, and this is a concept called open systems theory. I've put a quick YouTube video. It's not a good YouTube video, so I apologize for that, but it might give you, as you're reading through the article, if you watch the video kind of, eyes half open on this one, if you watch the video, listen to the video, and then read the article, it might help you a little bit with this concept of closed systems versus open systems. And then the I always say this wrong, Grodzin's article in 1966. This is the American system. Going back to our concept of federalism, that will help with this. And how complicated, if you're trying to explain this American system of federal government versus state governments, that we are citizens of, in my case, California, and I am a citizen of the United States, kind of this dual citizenship, how all of this works with the federal government to the state government, states to the county, county to the cities. And so that American system, very interesting. I would, again, it's a short article, but kind of an interesting one. And then Anthony Downs in 1967, and this is the cycle of bureaus. This is a link to a PowerPoint slide. So here's my suggestion on this one. Again, not great information, but it's okay. If you, there's no audio on this PowerPoint, but if you click to this PowerPoint slide, you've got to watch a little 15-second commercial first. Then you can go through the slides and maybe take some notes off of the slides there. Then when you read Downs's article, it'll kind of key you in on what might make sense. It's also kind of a good example of how just a PowerPoint can tell, with just some bullets can help you kind of grasp some really complicated concepts. So that's what I would recommend on this week. As you can see from this, you've got that first part of the pages 175 to 186. Those are, that will give you some good overall guidance. And then the next three articles are quite short, and you're actually going to be thankful for that because of what's about to come here. So focus on those articles. Again, we're moving into this new excuse me, era. And then you've got some other things I need you to do this week. There's this one video, it's just a 5-minute video, and it's really just to kind of think a think piece to get our minds moving into this new era of public administration. So this is the UK's take on civil service reform, and we're going to be talking about them more next week, or kind of the civil service reform next week. So this is a quick video. Again, this is another, while you're folding laundry, have the video playing kind of thing. It's an interesting video. Doesn't pertain as much to what you're doing this week, but it's something I need you to start thinking about. This is the big reading assignment for this week, and it's an article called What Jesus Says to Public Administration, and it's 30 pages. My suggestion is maybe even before you do anything else this week, if you print this out or however you're going to read it, get this read right away, because you're going to want to read it probably once or twice. And there's a mindset that I want you in as you read this. Do not read this article from a religious standpoint. If you do, it might be kind of irritating and you might get kind of lost in some details on it, because it's not intended to be a religious article. And it's not intended to have any commentary really on religion, other than kind of what are the Christian values and how that concept plays into public administration. And where are we now as a culture, as a country? And if we say we were ever founded on Judeo-Christian principles, and if those are not part of our culture anymore, what does that mean for us as public administrators? So I want you to take kind of this, like you're in an airplane looking down, this 30,000 foot, kind of view of what's on the ground. Don't get caught up in the religious details of this one, but what are they saying? Where are we? Where have we come from in the way of our Christian values playing into how we administer government? Where have we been? Where are we now? And where are we going from here? So the end of the article is very much, where are we going from here? And I'd like you to read the article, and then if you, ideally, and I know it's harder in an online format, but if you have a friend in class that you can talk to about this and kind of debate the concepts around all of this, I'd really like you to do that. If you don't have somebody in class, I know when I was working on my doctorate, my husband and I would read articles, and then I would print out the article and take it to Sizzler. That was like our place to go if I had to talk about, school stuff. And I would then tell him what the article said, and he was always a wonderful sounding board for me. And so we would spend time at, I don't know why it was Sizzler's, it was just down the street. It's actually closed now. Irrelevant to my story, but anyway, that's where I would go, and we would talk about it, and we'd have ideas and disagree and agree on all of that. So this is one to kind of get you thinking about public administration. Again, this is not a religious article per se. In fact, it might be almost the exact opposite of that, but the concepts are very important. Of where we're going. So again, I'd like you to read the article, set it aside, and then kind of scan through it. Maybe on the second time, start highlighting it, start picking out some points on it, because then this is going to tie to your assignment. So the writing assignment is going to be to read that article, and now here's kind of the trick on the assignment. Is through the lens of an author that we've already covered. I want you to critique or praise the posted article. And now, okay, so what does that mean? So I want you to, this is not about your opinion anymore. This is not about what you think of the article, and it's not about what you think of public administration. But if you had this article, and you could pretend or play a role that you are Frederick Winslow Taylor, or you are Wilson, Woodrow Wilson, or you are Max Weber. What would you, as that person, say about this? So I want you to look at really everything leading up to the conclusion of that article, and then where are they thinking we should go from here? Where are we now? And what would Wilson say about that? Maybe from a dichotomy standpoint, or what would Weber say about that? Or what would Gulick say about that? So when you're doing this, quote, critique or praise, would they support that article and why? So this is really this is going to force you to really understand those theories inside and out in order to say, well, no, it people would let me back up. When we're dealing with theory, if somebody had a dream, your friend came up to you and says, not that they have a dream for the future, but they actually had a dream last night, and you're trying to interpret that dream or say, what does that dream mean? You might say, well, according to Freud, it means this, or according to Jung, it means this. So you're going to kind of channel that theorist into the interpretation. So it's the same thing. So you read that article, the 30-page article, and then you would say, well, what would Wilson say about that? Would Wilson agree? Would Wilson disagree? Are there points where Wilson would agree or disagree? You can do any of the theorists that we've covered so far. Because this is about the future of public administration, if you're dealing with somebody like, if you pick somebody like Taylor, Taylor is really a process person and not really about the public administration per se. So it might actually be easier to do this one or more straightforward if you're using more of a PA theorist on this. But you can take this any way you want. So this is going to be a 2 to 3 page paper. Of course, you make sure you've got your title page and your reference page. That doesn't count towards your 2 to 3 pages. And then I want you to really, so we're calling it a critique or a praise, but it's what would Wilson say about this? So how do these two theories relate or not relate? All right, that's the core of the writing assignment. So now we're assuming that you have this brilliant paper, 2 to 3 pages, that have now had, you've written it, and let's assume it's been published and everybody in the world is loving what you just wrote about the critique of that article. Now, so you'll see on this week's lesson, it says, congratulations, your essay critique has received national praise. Yay! All right, so now pretend you're going to present your findings or what your take is on this in a PowerPoint. So you're going to create a 5 to 7 slide PowerPoint that overviews the main points of your essay critique. All right, now, so the big kind of reading assignment is going to be that 30-page article, plus you've got your other articles that you could use any of those theorists in with. And actually, they might work real well with this too. Anyway, you've got your articles to read. You've got the one video to watch. You've got on the UK, and you've got the 30-page article. In addition to that, budget time, because this is the first week that your PowerPoint needs to be accompanied by an audio presentation and a recording. So like the ones that you're listening to now. So you hear my voice and the slides move and all of that. So where are we now? So the last bullet here says students will record or screencast the presentation for this class. Presentation should be under 7 minutes in length. All right, so this time it's going to be not just the PowerPoint, 5 to 7 slides. It's going to relate to your paper, but you also have to record it this time. All right, let me go to the next slide. All right, so what you're going to turn in this week, paper is going to be the first assignment, the writing assignment, and then students will upload their presentation with and without audio. So there's going to be 2 PowerPoints, or I'll talk about that in a minute. Let's say 2 PowerPoints you're going to upload. So in other words, 2 attachments or an attachment of the raw PowerPoint presentation, meaning without the audio, and the one with the presentation. you can, so again, the next bullet is just clarifying. So the unrecorded, the raw PowerPoint, plus the uploaded file with the audio recording or a web link if you're going to post it in YouTube. All right, let me go to the next one here. What we're recommending that you use is a site called Screencast-O-Matic. And there's tutorials on this, and it's really good to learn how to use this. This will actually, it's really easy to use. You can go in there and it will just, if you want your video picture in there, you can do that. You don't have to. But it will, everything that you're doing on the screen, it will just capture. This is a very powerful piece of software. I do mine usually in PowerPoint. That's the ones that you guys hear. And that's okay to do as a fallback. Just record it in PowerPoint with an audio track. But I'd really encourage you guys to try this Screencast-O-Matic this week and just give it a try, because at work there's nothing better than, you know, if you're, let's say you're doing new time cards at your work, and rather than calling everybody into a meeting, you can go with it. You can use a Screencast-O-Matic, and you can give a little, 5-minute tutorial to your staff of how to fill out the new time cards, or how to fill out the new budget forms, or the new mileage logs, or whatever you're doing. So much at work can be, rather than just a written memo, can be really powerful if you're using this kind of software. So here's the link. It's on the lesson for this week as well. And there's some tutorials, and they're quick tutorials done with Screencast-O-Matic. So I would start, there's one on the page that I think that if you click on the main one and then go to tutorials, and then there's one for som.com tutorials is the name of the link, which is Screencast-O-Matic, I guess, tutorials. If you start there, and then there'll be some other ones that'll kind of domino from there. So time-wise for this week, the textbook, you're going to have the beginning pages plus the 3 articles. Budget time for that reading. The big article, the 30-page article, make sure you've budgeted time for that one. Then you're creating, and then the little 5-minute video for the UK. So that will get you kind of the workload. Then you're going to develop your brilliant and wonderful papers and PowerPoints and all of that. But make sure you're budgeting, if you have not used Screencast-O-Matic yet, make sure you're budgeting a good 45 minutes to go through the tutorials. What I can say is this is not going to be wasted time. This is stuff you will be able to use, whether it's for something at church that you want to, tell everybody. Then you're either going to, you can save it as a video file and then just upload that for your assignment, or you can publish it to YouTube, or you can publish it to something else, I think. To Screencast-O-Matic there, and you can just give me the link to that. But this is really going to be, if you haven't done this kind of recording yet, I highly, highly recommend taking the time to go through this. It's not going to take you that long, but it is going to take some concentrated time where you're going to kind of work through these tutorials, do some demos, try it out, see how it works. It's going to take you, I would give yourself a good 45 minutes to get comfortable with the software, but once you know it, you're going to know it, and I think it's going to come in really handy. All right, so there's a lot of kind of unusual things we're doing this week, but hopefully you'll enjoy it, and hopefully it'll be fun. And then if you have any questions, please post them on the discussion board. Sometimes I'll go in, like let's say on a Wednesday morning, and I check, and then I may not check again until late on Thursday or early Friday or something. So if you do post a question there, so that I don't have a long lag time in between that. If it's something that's kind of timely, if you don't mind, just text me or email me. Just say, can you check the discussion board? There's a question on the discussion board. And then I'll get to it just as soon as I can. But other than that, it's like, oh, students are fine. I checked everything this morning and they're all fine. And if I don't check back in the evening or the next morning, you could be waiting some time where I could have already got that information to you. Again, if you need any help, if you want to talk, I've actually been talking to students this past week, which has been wonderful. So if you do want to talk, please text me. Just let me know a time you want to set up a time to chat, and we can do that as well. All right. Well, I look forward to seeing all the wonderful presentations this week. If you have any questions, please let me know. And in the meantime, have a very blessed week.